Okay, welcome everybody. I'm holding the mic up. Lately, people have been complaining. I'm sitting back a little farther than I normally do from my microphone, so we bring it up closer. And so I think even Blake had mentioned it last show, that I was fading it out in and out a little bit. And so if I keep it about here, and I am in the process, I'm going to buy a boom microphone thing. We'll bring it over, and I'll connect it up, and we'll swing that into the frame, and then I don't have to be sitting here holding it because I'm lazy. I'm fundamentally lazy. I admit it. I know it. So much has happened. What a crazy, crazy week. And we had the shooting in Bondi Beach in Australia, 16 people killed, a number more injured. We had the heroic Muslim man. This is what's great. So it teaches you it's not about Islam itself. It teaches you it's more about the psychology of certain components, subcomponents within overarching religious paradigms that are the problem more than anything else. Wolfie, welcome to the show. Our first hello comes from Wolfie. The other story we're following is Brown University in the United States. A suspected Muslim guy there shouted something. Rumor has it, unsubstantiated, it was Allah Akbar. It was Allah Akbar. And so we're hearing that may have been said. And so they're keeping a lid on it. And there's a lot of criticism for a seemingly fumbling administration and police department dealing with the atrocity there. Two people were gunned down. One, a young Christian woman I know that was head of kind of the Republican body there. So it's tragic. Both the Australian situation and the situation at Brown University. And finally, a vocal and much loved TV personality, Rob Reiner, was discovered murdered in his home, allegedly by their son, him and his wife. The wife, ironically, was a photographer who took the photo of Trump's image for his world famous, iconic book, The Art of the Deal. That great shot of the Donald there. So there's no hiding the fact that there was real animosity between Reiner and Trump. Reiner hated Trump. And for Trump's part, he's not too fond of Reiner. So when the news broke, we'll start with this, I guess. The president was less than reconciliatory. Usually, Trump is one of those guys that kind of takes the high road on these kind of situations, but zero fucks given. And he put out a tweet that's generated a lot of controversy in some circles. I'm on record right now. I had no problem with the tweet whatsoever. Rest in peace. He goes, a very sad thing happened, he says. Now, whether he's mocking, whatever the tone is, I leave that up to you to decide. But for me, as a disinterested party just outside watching it, I just go, interesting. So, but basically, what he went on to say is that the guy's got Trump derangement syndrome. And he spent his lifetime, the last few years of his life, taking on me. And I got just one kind of note about this. Let me find it up here. I find that if it's the last thing I click on, it becomes the thing that it'll go to. Okay, here we go. Did something arrive today? Oh, Joey sent us. My good friend Joey Callio sent us a treat unexpectedly. Okay, let's get the clip. So I go here. I'm all excited. Joey got me a treat. Okay, is this it? Yeah. Okay, this is from Cynical Publius. To all of you bedwetting conservatives, let me check. Like, can we read this clear enough? Let's make it big.
Yeah,
There
that's
we
better.
go. That's better. Isn't that better? To all you bedwetting conservatives who have your knickers in a twist because Donald Trump spoke some truth about Rob Reiner, remember this. Remember this. Reiner tried to overthrow our duly elected government. He really did. Proof below. Reiner was engaged in information operations that led to efforts to have Trump in prison on wholly fabricated charges. Proof below. In all likelihood, Reiner was in cahoots with the CIA in attempting to destroy our constitutional form of government. Proof below. I'm putting that in. Given the above, if anything, Trump's commentary on Reiner was too kind. So knock it off, bedwetters. And here's the reference point from Svetlana Lakova. Here is Rob Reiner conspiring with John Brennan, former CIA, Jim Clapper, former CIA, to overthrow the democratically elected president as part of the Russiagate conspiracy. What was Reiner's connection to the CIA? Inquiring minds want to know. So this guy, Rob Reiner, who I genuinely enjoyed growing up. I was a fan. I liked him. He was meathead on All in the Family, the liberal there. Then he became the world famous director of Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap, I was just going to say.
One of the funniest movies you're ever going to see. And the critically acclaimed Princess Bride, a copy of that film I own in the Criterion Collection on Blu-ray. So highly regarded. He's a great artist. I have no qualms about that. But politically, I'm adversarial to him to the nth degree. I think he was working with this. I don't have to think he was. He was working with the CIA. When you're hanging around with John Brennan and Jim Clapper, two known gangsters that are part of the cabal trying to take down the president, all this is heating up. Blake, I get a real feeling that January is going to be this 2026 is going to be a year when we're finally going to see some heads roll. And certainly all signs are pointing that way from where I'm sitting. Your take on President Trump comment. Did you like it? Were you against it? Were you neutral? Rob Reiner comments about Mr. Reiner. And then we'll start taking on the Brown University, and we'll talk about Bondi Beach. Okay, so I hand it over to you. Your capable hands.
Well, I think the Truth Social comment that he made. I think it was unnecessary. That's just my opinion. He's the president. He won, right? He's now won. There was no need to go into what he was saying. He's Rob Reiner didn't get what he wanted. Rob Reiner lost that political fight with his connections. I just think it was unnecessary, right? At this point, I mean, it's a finished. Obviously there's hurt feelings there. You can tell. And maybe they were buddies at one time, way back when, as you said, the photography for his book. Maybe they were when he was a Democrat in New York. And let's remember, Trump was heralded by Democrats left, right, and center as a hero. I remember, Reverend Jesse Jackson giving him an award for being for advancing people of color in his hiring practices within his companies. This guy got major awards. Trump was heralded by the left and the Democratic establishment in New York. And I would assume that meant Rob Reiner was probably a buddy at that point. So something must have triggered him there. This was, because one thing you can tell with Trump, he gets upset when he's been backstabbed. That's the one thing that drives him absolutely crazy, is when people backstab him, who shake his hand as his buddy. Maybe they hung out. Maybe they had some kind of connection before that react that way. It was more like a hurt buddy that had this guy turn against him that was on his side at one point in his life. But as I said, I think it was an overreaction. I think he would have been better just to not say anything at all. It's not like the entire country was in jeopardy over the loss of Rob Reiner, outside of saying, RAP. And that's all he really needed to say, if he needed to say anything at all. But calling out the other side of the coin, though, the connection to Hollywood and the deep state is something that is a big concern. Now, it's nothing new. Hollywood has been part of the propaganda machine for a long time, sometimes for good causes, sometimes for bad. World War II, leading up to fighting the Nazis, there was a lot of push to support the troops in the war effort overseas, and to get into the fight in Japan and get into the fight in Europe where America was kind of isolationist and had been, World War One. They came in late. They kind of were dragged into World War One, kicking and screaming. World War II was, again, a very similar circumstance where America had to be convinced to enter into World War II. And so the CIA has deep roots into Hollywood and manipulating their causes. So I think the propaganda machine is built in there. One of the bigger concerns of more recent times is China's entrance into Hollywood, and that they have huge holdings and interests in large companies like Disney. And so they have an influence on how those movies and how the messaging from Hollywood is being portrayed. So that's another side of the coin that has been, I think, people rightfully question about Hollywood's intentions, especially with all the woke nonsense, the blatant manipulation of the public, buying in all the far left propaganda and using it where the majority of the public doesn't buy it. And to this day, the rebellion has shown, and the rebellion has been putting Donald Trump into office and MAGA winning in other seats and continuing to roll forward. But yeah, I think Rob Reiner was part of that machine? Absolutely. He was part of the Democratic machine. 100%. He was a big supporter.
Thing. Here's my point. Because Wolfie goes, I want to know who the hell is advising Trump that his tweets about the situation are okay. It's an unforced error. Nothing wrong with taking the high road. My argument is this is Trump. You don't control him. He's an alpha bull.
Yeah.
He's an alpha bull. And you take the good and the bad with Trump. He's idiosyncratic. He's egotistical. He's got a huge ego. But that's Trump. That's the guy that's taken on the cabal. That's the guy they shot at twice. They hit him once. They shot at him twice. He's the guy that's out there. He's the guy that had his house raided, as we're now finding out just today. All right, one of the next story, I think we'll springboard into that.
Yeah.
Mar-a-Lago raid was now, it's now come out, there was no justification for it. So you can't just have a perfect world where you go, I want all the good parts about Trump, but I don't want him to be in the locker room saying, grab him by the pussy. Fuck you.
That's
Fuck you. So I'm all for that, man. What I'm out for is a good time. All the rest propaganda. Albert Finney, the legend Albert Finney. So here's the other thing. Trump knows a lot more than what we know about. Trump gets to see all sorts of classified information that he's not free to talk about. Greetings, have you seen the Al Franken roast of Reiner where he jokes about the SA of Nick? Now, I'm not too sure what the SA means here, but I saw the clip or a little portion of it, and I saw the kind of the rhetoric around the clip, but basically it was a Reiner roast, and it was basically about his dad having sex with him. And it was about Reiner having sex with kids and stuff like this. So the whole thing became very perverted, very dark. And the question is, even in the context of a roast, could there be some truth here? We're getting Epstein Island revelations coming, and that's going to backfire on the Dems mightily. It's been an absolute pathetic effort for them to try and dirty Trump with this. One, they put his head on the body of legendary footballer Diego Maradona, who's with some underage chick. Now, Maradona was also a coke guy. He was a big coke user. He was out of his mind. He's hand of God. I still have never forgiven Maradona for he's hand of God. It's you. It's a handball. He comes up there, pretends he's doing the header into the goal to score against Italy. He just punched the ball in the net. Totally illegal. Bastard. But that's, at least we got the Falkland Islands. Yeah. All right. So that's what I'm saying, about this whole thing. That's Trump. So don't stop him from tweeting. That's the whole guy. You're either with him or against him. That's the only way you can be. If you're going to nitpick like this, and here's a lesson for all you soft-hearted conservatives out there. If you apologize, if you give an inch to the left, they will fucking crucify you. They will not meet you halfway. They will just simply nail your hands to the cross and have done with you. So you better stick to your guns, let your yay be yay and your nay be nay, and let the chips fucking fall where they will. Because at the end of the day, Trump didn't say anything untrue about Reiner. He just wasn't gracious about Reiner. And as one pundit called it, he said Trump is basically saying, "Screw you, you can go to hell, and I'll leave the forgiveness up to God on you." And people go, well, the Christians say, Trump's a Christian. Trump's no Christian.
Yeah.
If he was a Christian, maybe I could hold him to some higher standard. But no, he is the president of the United States. Reiner was not a good guy. And I think the more we find out about Rob Reiner, is he on the Epstein list? Maybe we'll find out something that way, right? All I can tell you is from my personal thing, would I've said it? No, but I'm not Donald Trump. I'm not the guy that got shot at. So Trump just got a clean book for me. I wouldn't have done it, but I don't criticize him for it. I don't. Yeah. I have zero criticism for him. Whether it's a wise thing to do or not, it doesn't matter. That's the enchilada. That's our guy. That's Trumpy Bear.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you on that point. I mean,
all right.
it is what it is. You get the whole enchilada when you get with Trump. It's just as you said, you got to take it all or not. And
but he's not perfect. He's not Jesus Christ for a love.
No, he's a bit of a Rocky Balboa in the ring, right? That's kind of his thing. He likes to throw haymakers.
I love that. Wolfie's there. I mean, not Wolfie, but 4D. And I love Wolfie, by the way. Wolfie, I love you. Yeah, that was mind-blowing. It was Maradona had no qualms about cheating like a cheap punk to get that goal. And 2 minutes later scores one of the best goals ever scored anywhere in the world. Yeah, he was that good. Yeah. He's one of the greatest. He's a legend. He's no longer with us. Maradona. But in his British derangement syndrome, he was a creep and a cretin. I don't miss him all. May he rest in peace. All right. So there would be Trumpy say goodbye to Diego Maradona, but he was a legend. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I remember on my other channel, I have so much fun. We have these kids that muck around and cause trouble. And I said, there's no such thing as a bad boy. Kind of like, Father Flanagan from Boys Town is hilarious. But yeah, there's no such thing as a bad boy. Okay. Let's see what we got. So many stories here. Okay, this is good. We'll go here and then we'll return to the beach. We'll go back to Brown University.
Yeah.
Let's go here first. I got my clip, Blake. I got my clip. I'm learning how to do it. You just got to kind of click on it and it becomes the one at the top of the screen. Okay. And again, I think I got to go full size, full screen for you kids. All right. We're going to play a little bit of clip here. John Solomon has been really good on following all this story. Mar-a-Lago raid was to get the documents regarding Crossfire Hurricane they thought Trump had. That's why they went in there. It's the Crossfire Hurricane, which basically, what's the word? It indicts, it frames the Dems, it frames the Biden administration as the bad guys. Crossfire Hurricane, those documents implicate, that's my word, they implicate the Democrats. They wanted those documents. So that's what that was the rationale. They were nervous about it, and it turned out to be their biggest mistake. Bombshell, FBI and DOJ uncovered emails showing the Biden Justice Department did not have probable cause to raid Mar-a-Lago. Okay. This is significant. Why? It's within the statute of limitations and prosecutable in the state of Florida. Good. Arrest these bastards. Here they are. And, of course, we got Steve Bannon, who's thrown in jail by the Democrats for contempt of Congress. And Congress has my contempt as well. What a shit show that is. But here we go. Talking with Steve Bannon, the incredible reporter John Solomon. What happened at Mar-a-Lago?
The Justice Department and FBI are about to turn over a tranche of emails showing that the Justice Department, the Biden Justice Department, did not have probable cause, did not meet the standard for a search warrant when they raided President Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago. That is significant. Why? It's in the
Blockbuster.
statutory limit. It is prosecutable in the state of Florida, so you're not dealing with Virginia or Washington or New York jurors. And it could lead to both criminal charges against the prosecutors if they misled the court, or civil litigations where the president sues his own Justice Department saying, you violated my Fourth Amendment right against illegal search and seizure. And so those are really, this is a significant, this may be the most important document today.
This a blockbuster. You're telling me
Yeah,
there
it's important.
actually exist communications between people that show that they didn't have probable cause, which, remember, back in August that year, there was I think it was 21, there was this whole firestorm about this. And they went on TV every night and said that. You're saying they not only they had a discussion behind it, they actually went out and lied about it in media every single day on MSNBC and in the New York Times.
Well, here's the real question. We're going to have to find out what they represented to the judge to get that search warrant signed, because the FBI, the Washington field office of the FBI, which, by the way, was no fan of Donald Trump's. They were behind January 6th. They were behind Russia collusion. They were telling the Biden Justice Department there was not a probable cause to raid Mar-a-Lago. That is a significant. These are emails and memos from inside the Washington field office of the FBI, an anti-Trump field office. That is a really significant memo.
All right. So very interesting indeed, Blake. So without probable cause, and it's the same, what's remarkable about that is the Russiagate field office. They're the ones that, create a whole bunch of shit for Trump. They hate Trump, and they're going, we don't have probable cause for this. This could come back and bite us in the ass. And God, Blake, on this program, you hear me frequently say the old buzzard up in its tree limb. Here I am again. Patience, my ass. I'm going to kill something. Because they carry in, they wait for something to be dead before they go on it. So, but everybody's on our side of the aisle. We want to see justice. We want to see some people. We got, what's her name? Peters in jail, the Colorado election official, lovely lady by all accounts, and she's in jail because she exposed corruption. They put her in jail for exposing their corruption. It's like a banana republic.
And the state won't let her out, but Trump has pardoned her. So why? The part of who has authority there? That's the part that kind of blows me away. I mean, if she's been pardoned by the president, isn't that an automatic? She has to be let out immediately. I don't know. It's like they're wanting to have a physical fight over it. They want Trump to show up with troops to walk into the prison and walk her out. So.
Yeah, it is absolutely crazy. So we want to see, I think it's Tina Peters. We want her freed because she's in there. They've got drug addicts and illegals and, with heinous, horrendous crimes, and they're in and out of that justice system like you can't believe. But Tina Peters is a patriot. She is a political prisoner. There can be no doubt. And we got to get her out of there because, the Dems are kind of hoping she'll die while in captivity. She's not in the best of health, from what I understand, reports suggest. And so, I can only hope that we're going to get some good news on her and she'll come up. Okay.
Isn't it amazing we have laws that are supposed to protect whistleblowers? And as soon as a whistleblower goes against the regime, all of a sudden they're in jail or they've lost their jobs and they've lost everything their own and they're sued 6 times till Sunday.
Correct.
It's just amazing, the corruption. So it just tells everybody in the deep state, you better stay loyal or else you're going to end in jail. I'm not saying she was a deep stater, but you're an employee. No. Shut up. Don't blow the whistles. Yeah. Otherwise you go to jail.
This Mar-a-Lago thing is going to bite them so bad because they did it now. They're going to try it, and they've already convened the grand jury. So evidence is already being gathered. Now, this new evidence about the lack of justification, I mean, everything seems to be, it's really crazy because on one level, everybody's going, Pam Bondi, are you a deep state operative slowing the system down till it dies on the limb? Or is this all being carefully planned and marched out with more control and more patience than, us folks that are in the dark out here in the periphery are even aware of, right? We don't know all that's going on. Blake, let's shift our attention briefly to Canada. We got a couple of Canadian stories. First of all, I want to take that one down. And let me go. Yeah, right here. This is a big story. I noticed you got one too. So I brought that up, and that's right. That's in the pecking order. We got it in the pecking order. But this is a big story right now. This is more government corruption. I don't know if there's a government on earth more corrupt than the Canadian government. I would say, the Ukraine notwithstanding, it says a lot how bad we are. But anyway, hand over the records, says Dan Knight. Canadians were told there were 215 graves of dead Indian children. Government lit candles, they lowered flags, they rewrote history, they wrote checks. One First Nation received $12.1 million in taxpayer money, that's your money and my money, to exhume remains and conduct forensic testing. Seems like a fair deal. 4 years later, no remains recovered. I don't even think they broke ground, Blake. And now Ottawa is sealing the progress reports as, quote, confidential. Talk about a lack of transparency. Taxpayers paid for this. The public deserves the records. And the Liberal government swamp does not get to decide that accountability is optional. And let me go to the actual post itself. Scroll up. There's our Parliament buildings. This is our version of the White House, kids. Seals BC First Nation records on purported 215 graves. Confidential information? How the fuck is that confidential, Blake? Kamloops claimants got 12 mil for exhumation of remains, but recovered none of them. Absolute disgrace. Money just thrown away. And now they have the audacity, the arrogance, and they have the wherewithal and the ability to just bury the whole damn thing without breaking a sweat. They go, let's see, you'll never find out what happened to those supposed kids. You know what I think, Blake? I don't think there's any kids buried there.
I agree.
Kids buried there.
And a matter of fact, the evidence when that was first rolling out, but nobody was paying attention because they were too busy bending a knee to the post-national state of Canada. That this is really where it all comes down to. This was just another psyop on the entire population to get them to hate their country. It's that simple. Canada is completely infected with this WF mind virus that
but can't you find a way of dovetailing the missing children in with the land claims and land and all that nonsense?
But that's what it is. It's all that's what I'm talking about. Exactly that point. It's a massive psyop to continue to erode against who? The patriotic Canadians who love their country. And this is what we've been watching for a decade straight. And when you ask for evidence, that this is what they do. This is what the Liberal government, the NDP, all of them, all are in cahoots, have been doing the entire time, is to bury, no pun intended, the evidence, because there isn't any. That's made up. It's propaganda, and is what it is. There's nobody denying that residential schools, and this is the spin, the 1984 wrong speak spin that they put onto it, so that they force you into right speech. Because if you just say we're the 250 grades, well, now you're a residential school denier. What do you mean a denier? Nobody's denying residential schools. This matter of fact, that's the school. We can see it with our eyes. What we're saying is you're full of crap that there's 215 dead children who were massacred through genocide and put in those shallow graves because you guys made up stories that they're down only 3 feet deep because the children were forced to create and dig holes to bury their own children colleagues in school. This is the fucking bullshit that this government, and I'm going to say the government, has propagated, who's infected with Chinese operatives who are trying to destroy the West. This is where it comes down. Derail your idea that you have rights on your land. That's what they're doing. They're destabilizing the country so that they can take it over. And this is it. This is exactly the play. I have said this all along. the indigenous people of BC are being used, and the regular non-indigenous people of BC and Canada are also being duped. So between the two of them, look for the people making the money in the middle. And they'll throw money around, and they'll get their patsy puppet leaders from the First Nations community to put on a great speech. But ultimately, behind the scenes, it's the WF with their massive asset manager corporations coming in to take over all the resources, convert Canada into continuing to be a resource extraction colony. And that's where it comes down to, where locals are out. You won't own the land beneath your feet. You'll be nothing more than a tax slave and an extractor, and you'll be provided a home on land you don't own so that you'll be happy and you'll own nothing.
Yeah.
And that is the bullshit all tied to this story all along. And the whole idea of calling it truth and reconciliation is, again, right out of 1984, when there is no truth, there is no reconciliation.
No.
The truth is being exchanged for a lie, and we are being propagated to, just like the Nazis of the Third Reich did, where you say a lie, you say it often enough until the people believe it. The problem is there's enough of us questioning it, and now they're trying to connect it to the equivalency of Holocaust denying. And which is exactly the defamation work that the regime media, the deep staters in Canada, who are tied to the EU, who are tied to the Chinese system. There is a global geopolitical war over the lands of Canada. That's why Trump is offering a hand. You have an option to exit that now. Take it and become a 51st Strait Fortress North America, and we can end this endless onslaught to try and destabilize Canada, to break it up into something that could be managed by these technocratic elites working for the neo-nobility who will own it all. So that's the problem here. And I have evidence of that, which I put into that link, which backs up what this is all about.
Yeah, why don't we go to that now? So I've just tagged that, so now I'll bring it up. And I'll read this, and then Blake will take it on for us. Okay, folks? And once again, I'll make a big, do you want me just your part, or do you want me to bring David Eby's thing?
David Eby's both, and yeah, do both, and then my point.
All right. Okay, here we go. This is a post that Blake made earlier, I guess today. Great news for BC. New mining giant Anglo-Teck will be the largest company in our province's history. They'll help unlock prosperity in the Northwest and deliver good jobs and benefits across the province. Welcome, Anglo-Teck. Yay. Sounds really good.
That's the premier of British Columbia.
Positive. That's like our governor talking. Now, this kid, Blake McKenzie, who I tend to love, how much of the BC Public Service Union pension funds are managed by WEF-linked trillion-dollar asset managers? The usual suspects right there. Trillion-dollar asset managers, the usual suspects, prioritizing China and South Africa interests over locals. Locals are being pushed off the lands under UNDRIP, that's the Indian thing, which was supported by China and South Africa. Of course, they liked that. Public Investment Corp heightened up here so you can see what's going on. 8.39% Anglo-American stake. And then the shareholder Public Investment Corp and China Investment Corp not available. Institutional dominance. Both companies are predominantly owned by large institutional investors, such as asset management firms and pension funds. So very interesting. It's to me, like, it looks like it's the usual suspects up to no good. Take it away. Tell us more about what we're seeing there.
Well, what you were seeing there is the major shareholders overview of both companies, which, of course, some of the largest, there's the three biggest asset management firms in the world who own trillions. I think BlackRock has $10 trillion of assets under management, and who knows, unlimited others.
Yeah.
But BlackRock's right at the top of the list. Vanguard, right at the top of the list. But the other two, which are biggest concerning ownership control, is the Public Investment Corp, which is owned by the government of South Africa, who's also voted in 2007 with China to support UNDRIP. Yet UNDRIP, which is the UN version of the British Columbia, which adopted it under what was called DRIPA here, which has caused chaos to erupt in Canada overall because there's landmark rulings through the court saying we need to follow UNDRIP because UNDRIP is what the UN says we need to follow. Canada actually voted against it in 2007. But then when the Liberals got in and when the NDP got in power in 2017 here, they all of a sudden started to adopt UNDRIP. And why? Because the Public Investment Corp owned by South Africa. South Africa is also doing the same thing to its indigenous peoples there. And I'm going to say white, they're not settlers when they've been in South Africa for hundreds of years. They've been in hundreds of years in 500 years now in North America as well. But they're using this to destabilize private property ownership so that nobody will have a right to declare that they have a right to their own land. Yeah. And you see China's investment corp is also a big shareholder. That when you see 3.5% and 5.6% and 8.39% and 6.3%, people go like, oh, that's not much. Add them all together and they have controlling interests on the board. I'm telling you, that's how they do it. They control the boards of these massive corporations. They get the union pension funds from the government workers to fund their investments. So that gets the legislative control that they want. It is absolutely fascism 101 when the public sector merges with the private sector and blocks everyone out. This is what Canada has become. This is the direction of the WF. They're partnered with China, South African government. They're partnered with the EU and their WF cohorts in BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, Brookfield, and all those that love Mark Carney's elbows up. They're part of the same club. This is what they're doing. And they're using this fake front of Indigenous rights to circumvent local democracy, your voice. They want this to infect the United States. They do. There's land back movements in the US. Yeah. They're using it worldwide, which is odd that they're doing this here, but in Britain, the Indigenous people are actually being replaced.
Correct.
Which is fascinating, watching the bullshit that is being conducted worldwide by these groups. And we have only a handful of countries right now that are finally waking up and winning. We saw, obviously Trump winning in the United States has put a massive jab into the movement these guys have tried to do worldwide. Obviously, we've got Argentina has changed direction, El Salvador, hoping on Honduras. We just saw Chile. Bolivia and Chile also voted in for the first time a
Trump-loving government.
Yeah, another MAGA type of, but making Chile great again. And you're seeing this Bulgaria, I think, was the other one that flipped. Yeah. And a lot of the Slavic countries are all switching that direction. I really feel that we're at a crossroads where if the EU has become the enemy. I feel what's really going on here.
I think you're right.
Is a massive psyop on the world. And that what they're doing, why they're using Islamic mass migration into Europe and into parts is purposely being driven to create mass disruption. And that means violence and war and factional fighting between people. They want that. Why do they want to do that? Because the EU is still the same roots of the fascist dictators that came in the 1930s under Hitler. This is a rise to the Fourth Reich. This is what they want. They're just bringing it in under a different brand because people will be calling for the government to intervene and stop it. And once everybody's fighting each other, now you have all the position in place to create your Fourth Reich on the world where you get this fascist rod of iron dictator who's going to show up and say, well, you asked for it. Now we're going to crack down on everybody. Nobody will have rights. Nobody will own anything and stuff you in a closet. And that's where you're going to live and work for the system. So
how antichrist is that?
Yeah, it is, but it's exactly the same play. These guys run every time their fiat currencies go into a collapse. They cause massive disruption. They cause world wars. They do everything in their power because they just want to reboot. What did they call it? The Great Reset.
Yeah.
That's what done by Klaus Schwab, who has Nazi family members as all part of his history. These guys are horrible. And I think once the left stops realizing they're the most psyoped group there is they're running around making themselves purple hair and telling them they don't know
Yeah.
what the color of the sky is, because they'll argue that the sky is actually black when it's blue, or it's when it's raining, they'll tell you it's sunny. They're the ones that are being psyoped probably more than anybody to be their useful idiots. And that's the thing. Stop supporting the fascists in disguise. And all of this is all interconnected. And that's my point. When I'm watching here in Canada, Canada's falling apart, Europe's falling apart. The psyop with the shooting at Bondi Beach is already begun. They're doing it. They're trying to tell you that the number one, the guy that actually stopped the one shooter and stepped in, he does have a Middle Eastern name, but he's actually a Christian.
Well, hold on. That hasn't been substantiated, that report. That's really interesting.
Okay. Well, they're saying I saw a report said he was.
I saw that report as well.
Yeah.
I went and I did some digging on that, and there's no corroborating source for that story. It is possible. His father did report publicly, talk and said, my Muslim son did this or stopped the attack.
Yeah.
I guess they interviewed the father. They haven't interviewed the individual himself. Ahmed Al-Ahmed. He's a genuine hero, and we're so thankful, regardless of religious affiliation, that he stopped these nutters, these extremists. One person put it that said, look, it's not really like the Muslim, it's more the Muslim Brotherhood within Islam, which is the problem. That's more the terrorist organization. That's got to stop. That's the ISIS. That's all those nuts. But it's not the average guy that's just trying to live his life and sell sausages, kosher type Islamic kosher sausages down at the flower shop.
Well, ultimately, we're seeing this ongoing effort to cause social collisions, especially in worlds that don't coexist well together, and it's being forced, right? So this forced is done intentionally, knowing full well from history what happens. We saw it in the Crusades. We saw it the Ottoman Empire. The front lines of it. If you lived in Serbia, or if you lived in any of the Adriatic areas, or if you lived in the Slavic countries, the former Eastern Bloc, those areas, they saw the Ottoman Empire front and center for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And essentially, it's almost like they're trying to allow the Ottoman Empire back into Europe. And it's a recreation. But the only way it can surmise the planet, it's like this giant Reichstag moment where they're trying to light the building on fire and kill locals and people that they're supposed to be protecting, so that they can create an excuse to create a mass crackdown and create the rise of the fascist state.
Well, yeah, it works. It's working everywhere, but in the United States, because of the U.S. Constitution, it's a bulwark against it. Are you watching Promethean Report? The Promethean Report?
Yeah,
with
I do.
Regularity.
Yeah,
those little old ladies. There's two of them. They're so great. Barbara is one of them. I forget the other. They're both great. They're both lovely. They're like, you expect them to go, oh, have another cookie, Neo. They are just like little grannies, but they're so intelligent, so informed. They have a philosophy, an ideology that says the British Empire is bad, bad, bad. Very bad, very bad, very bad British Empire. And that it's working against us, and that we're seeing a tectonic shift in the traditional alliances. So that old world alliance of America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Britain, France, Italy, all those traditional linkages and loyalties are being broken apart.
Mm-hmm.
And that the world is now being divided, and it's being divided, in their opinion, with the intent of stopping a third world war. And what America is doing, and Trump's initiating it, he's creating a new partnership involving China, America, India. Who else have they got in there? Who? Russia. How could I forget Russia? Russia's in there, number 4, and like Brazil or something, number 5, right? Japan's number 5. God, Sue remembers everything. Thank you, my producer Offset, giving me the answers.
So he's trying to connect the BRICS.
So but Trump's putting himself in with BRICS. So America's positing, and what are they going to be against? They will be standing against Europe, England, South Africa, Canada, and New Zealand, Australia, if I didn't mention those already. So we're seeing an absolute shift in the dynamic. So Russia allied, and so there's no way Europe's going to win a war against China, Russia, the United States, Japan, all
Brazil.
united like this. Yeah, Brazil. It's not going to happen. There's no way they're going to have that. They won't start or embark on that. And of course, we know they're priming and they're wanting this world war out of Ukraine. The talk is tough. Ukraine's lost that war. It's already lost the war. You just go look at the war maps. Russia gains more territory every day. They've got another big chunk of territory surrounded. And they're going to take it down. They surrounded, and it goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
But the Brits were the ones holding that up and saying, no. We don't want a ceasefire. Your terms are unacceptable, Trump. This is why all these plans that Trump's been advocating for peace in the area are being rejected. But they're being rejected for foolish reasons, under the mistaken belief that any sort of victory or compensation can be granted to the Ukraine after this blood-filled disaster that is this Russia-Ukrainian war. And you can't go, oh, it's Russia's fault, they invaded. No, NATO baited them and knew what to play, and Russia put a red line, and NATO said, screw you and your red line. We're going to do what we want to do. This is making Ukraine a NATO member and shifting the borders and getting it to be a member of the EU. And all of this was anathema to Russia, and the war resulted as a result of that posturing. What do you think about that idea?
Well, it makes sense, because I think if Trump is truly going the 1776 make America great and constitutionalized again, he knows he needs to get under the thumb of the Federal Reserve System, which is a private corporation run by the original the industrial elites that made a crap load of money and took over the entire financial system of the United States by making a private reserve that was not backed by any assets. It became, they got rid of the gold standard. They got rid of the BRICS are going to gold. They're going to silver. They're going to all the metals. They're going into critical metals. They're going into everything that becomes tangible assets that is useful to mankind. But gold is historic precedent as being the world's financial currency for 5,000 or 6,000 years. It's dated back that far. It's always been a measure of wealth that is a physical, tangible asset. So, you can trade with it. It's real. It's rare. You don't need some fake electronic cartoon money that's been made in a video game. You don't need to do all that unless it's tied to something. Yeah. And the BRICS nations, if you look, their proposal is that they're moving to gold with 40% gold, with 60% still tied to the reserve financial system, because many of those countries still hold trillions of dollars. And I'm talking Federal Reserve notes, and they can't just burn it because they'll lose on that deal. So they're suggesting a transition away from it. So it starts at 40% asset backed with gold and silver. That's why all of those metals are going through the roof, folks. Go check it out. Look at the last few years on those metals. It's skyrocketing and not slowing down. Notice that oil is tanking right now, which is, again, Trump said, I'm going to make it cheap to travel again. I think oil is down to $55 a barrel. I think they're talking about
Yeah,
ordering
people are
contracts for
starting to see the gas.
Yeah.
Just as Trump predicted, gas prices are at
$2 a
all-time lows.
gallon gas going to be rolling around this next couple
Yeah,
months.
Oklahoma, the number of spots in Oklahoma where it's under $1 now. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just crazy good.
So the
Okay.
petrodollar, so
Yeah.
that's a shot. So what I'm trying to say is that the BRICS nations want to move away from that so that we get back to an official solid trading currency. They want to gradually move the Federal Reserve notes, which the EU is fighting because they don't have anything left. But all of these governments are quietly acquiring massive amounts of bullion because they're going to slowly wean the world off its reserves of Federal Reserve fiat currency notes. And they're basically it's a debt-based note. People buy debt from your country as a form of collateral to the trading. So you can trade with debt. So basically, you're enslaving generations. It's a slave trade. It's just you don't see the chains on the people. They have to do it through taxation.
And there's a naivete about the population that certainly I had. You figure, if I'm not in debt and I've paid off my debts, if I've ever had a loan, gosh, I must have just the world's greatest credit rating. No, the system's so corrupt. If you want to have an incredible credit score, get yourself in debt. And make payments while you're in debt. They are so happy with that. We're so proud of you. A little pat on your head for being so good. You are in debt up to your yin yang, but because you're making your payments, you're in debt. We love you in debt. You've got what's called a good credit score. You want to borrow more? Because we will bust you. Eventually.
Absolutely.
You get to such you've just qualified for an exciting new credit card. Would you like one?
That's right. Here, and then you could lose it all, and then they start you all over again because that's what the system's built on: printing money out of thin air based on future potential earnings. That's why these governments are I think why Canada is a kleptocracy now is essentially what you've been talking about before, is exactly that. They know the time is short. The whole system is going to fall. I was listening to Glenn Beck. He's bang on about this. He was talking about, he goes, between now and 2028, we're going to see, he's worried that we're going to see a collapse of our entire pension systems, our entire financial systems. And I think Trump is got to work with the countries in a new alignment of how currency is going to work. And it will be, and some people speculate why Kennedy was shot, was because he wanted to repatriate the U.S. dollar, get it out of the Federal Reserve System, tie it back to gold, and that's essentially what it was. So when you bought a U.S. dollar prior to the Federal Reserve founding, and I believe it was 1917 when they came in, it was during World War I. It was around then, I believe it was somewhere around there. And then 1933, they had the FDR Act to basically confiscate gold in the U.S. They confiscated your gold. They said, we're only going to give you $20. And they immediately, after they confiscated everyone's gold, it all of a sudden magically went up to, like $35 an ounce. So what was fascinating, and then during the war, they stopped all production. They made it illegal to mine gold and silver, et cetera, because you had to be mining. They wanted iron and lead and everything else for the war effort. But in this case, I think Trump might be behind that. And, why are those guys taking a shot at him? That is a bigger power threat to the establishment, is that when the establishment has their money,
it'll change everybody's life.
Well, they're the Confederates. The Confederates wanted to preserve slavery, and they called it under states' rights. This is about states' rights. No, it's about slavery. You want to create a slave system. So when they lost and the world was invested outside of Britain in slavery, physical slavery, you were owning slaves. Spain was in it. Africa was in it. Middle East was in it. It was worldwide. Slavery was just a normal part of trade. We have to realize that. They switched it. They switched slavery to a debt-based system, which the slavery moved from being physical people to it was monetized. Slavery became monetized. It became debt slavery. That's how you do it. And you learned how to milk the system by building wealth off debt notes. You become a multi-billionaire of what? not dollars, but Federal Reserve notes that are debt-based currency. So you were supposed to be able to take that dollar and trade it for something. You're just trading debt for debt. And somebody takes that money, you're giving them a debt note. Now that's the IOU goes to that person you just bought that goods from. So this is the system. It's so corrupt. Yeah, people would say it brought a great standard of living and all that, but you basically spread it worldwide and everybody's addicted to debt.
And we could be so much wealthier. I mean, living in Canada, United States, and you know, so many places in the world, the first world, we call it the first world, because we're so rich in resources. And if it was managed properly, everybody should be prospering through the roof, you know, with the traditional population we had.
I think those guys want to mortgage us, right? That's the thing. They're mortgaging everything. That's why they want the land beneath our feet. They want to call the wagers on the debt-based monetary system and saying, you took part of this country. We now owned all the resources under your feet. We have everything. We want your houses. We want your cities. We want your resources.
Tax, man.
And that's the Great Reset. So what was the next great thing to monetize? Carbon. Let's carbonize, make a monetize so what you breathe so that they can control you. It is all in alliance with each other. And we just got to realize everything we're watching on TV or in the news or on the internet, for a lot of it is a psyop, right? I mean, it really is a global psyop by the regime media. And I don't just say a regime in one country. It is an alliance of global cartels that are tied to the central banking system that is having a hard time trying to hold this house of cards together. People don't realize 2008 and 2009 financial crash was bigger and more damaging than people realize. It affected countries worldwide. And what they did is they bought time. They did what was called quantitative easing. They printed more money and it just created inflation. And then what did they have? Well, we'll talk about it maybe on another episode once we get into the new year, because I think we're going to see a lot of stuff coming out, as you said, in January. And it's going to also show how these elections have been manipulated around the world, and voting machines and the corruption to that. It's all tied. All this stuff's going to all get tied together. And I think that's where the world's going to come.
I think we're close to seeing that kind of come out in 2026, at some point in 2026.
Yeah.
I think the lid's finally going to be opened up on all the election stuff that's been going on. That'll be a revelation.
Yeah.
I got a clip for you here. This is kind of a concerning story as well, because it all ties in with the economic picture. And so I will once again make this full screen for us here. And, okay, let me go into the article, read it there. SCOTUS could wreck everything. Trump has used tariffs to stop countless conflicts between countries like India and Pakistan, saving millions of lives. Trump's used tariffs to leverage peace. Remarkable, remarkable. SCOTUS set to rule on Trump's sweeping tariff authority. Imagine the fallout if they strip him of that power. Escalating global conflicts without U.S. leverage, thousands of preventable deaths, skyrocketing costs for American families, all because bureaucrats want to undermine effective leadership. We can't let the deep state disarm our greatest peace tool. Sheriff, you agree. Trump needs full authority to keep us safe. Here we go. Make them big, and let's listen to the president.
We stopped a lot of these wars using trade. We had, as an example, India and Pakistan were going at it really hard. 7 planes were shot down. It was going to happen. Bad things were happening. And I was talking to both of them about trade. And I said, how are we doing with this? Said, sir, we're doing very well. I'm like, great. Well, we're not going to do well. We're not going to do a trade deal unless they stop the war. And I got him on the phone, and I said, listen, we're going to put a 200% tariff on your country for any product you sell into the United States unless you stop this war, because I'm not going to be a party to it. You have 2 nuclear nations, by the way. No, you can't do that. I say, I can do that. Very easily I can. We're not going to lose millions of people from the planet. And frankly, that dust can blow over here too. It affects everything. It's a powerful, powerful weapon. Too powerful. So powerful you don't want to talk about it. So they said, no. I said, yes. Here's the story. if you're going to go and do it, we're cutting off all negotiations. There'll be no trade with the United States of America. Both nations spoke to them both. I like both. The leaders, I like them both. Wow. But I said, that's the way it is. And I get a call the next day. We have decided to de-escalate. I said, I thought you would, actually. We have decided that we will not fight. I said, have you come to a conclusion? Yes, we're not going to do any more. They stopped. It's just like that. This could have been a nuclear war, probably would have been. In fact, the Prime Minister of Pakistan came and saw me, and he was emotional about it. And in front of a group of people, he said, this man saved 3 million, 5 million, maybe an untold number of lives. And it was just recently that this happened. So, and we did numerous of them like that. And part of the reason we did it was trade. I think of the 8, I would say 5 were because of trade. You know, the power of trade, but the power of tariffs. The tariffs have made us a very kind nation because a lot of people aren't dying. I use it for purposes of stopping wars. I love stopping wars. And sort of interesting. I'll be the only president. I don't think any president.
All right. So, Trumpy Bear, Trump being Trump, right? I don't think anybody's standing like anything great. So, but I mean, he's right. This is how he's leveraging the tariffs, and it's making economic sense. The reports and the job reports in the U.S. are looking really good. Canada's are the exact opposite. America's on its way, ascended up to see Jesus and be in love and playing harps. We're on our way to hell. Okay. Canada's on a fast track to hell. And so we've shed jobs. We can't get anything going in this country. We're in big trouble. The only thing we can get going is if the Chinese okay it, which case is good for China, but not necessarily good for us, old stock Canadians. But Trump, he shed something like 700,000 government and jobs, which are a weight of their fat on the system. Like dropping pounds, right? You want to drop the fat. But he also gained something like 600,000, the jobs report, 600,000 private sector jobs. That's incredible. He's shocking critics and economic forecasters the way the rhetoric is going because the economy is turning around. Trump's applying sound principles that are paying off. And we're seeing it in lower gas prices, lower food costs. That's going to come down too. Just give it some time in America, talking about America. And of course, blue states could do a lot to hinder that and make it difficult for their populations. But very happy to see that everything's kind of coming together very positively. We have hit the 102 mark. Blake, closing thoughts, anything you want to address that we haven't addressed?
Well, and I think Trump, I just want to comment on that last point. Trump comes from a private sector background. He is not connected to the public sector. Outside, I think he was offered to do some major projects in New York to get stuff done because they weren't getting stuff done. But other than that, he understands how much power that the asset manager class has over the United States and the world. Because if you this is how lazy these trillionaire asset management companies come. They survive off the public sector unions. They get most of their investment dollars now. It's like free money for them to go reinvest because they're using the union pension funds or the public sector pension funds to do their mass takeover of the world financially of every aspect. So I think he knows that if he can break that will be Canada. That's where Canada is the biggest problem, and why they won't let go and of that horrible system is because we're still essentially a Hudson's Bay Company town country. We were formed on a corporate monopoly. Our elections are just a vote to change the board of directors or keep the same board of directors. They own it all. It's owned by the crown. The same people who switched Canada over into a, quote, country are the same Hudson's Bay Company monopoly, corporate monopoly bureaucrats that just said, well, we no longer have this anymore, so let's just call it a Canada. And they took the same concept of indentured servants and servitude, applied it to taxation, applied it to all that, just to prevent give the illusion that there was freedom when it's just a company town. And that's why Canada's in trouble. And that's why monopolists can make a mess of Canada real quick. I think Trump will stop it. I think it's on the horizon. Alberta is going into a full referendum. We are going to hell, but I think usually the road to hell sometimes has a few branches and off ramps to choose when you get there. And I think it's coming. I think it's coming.
Can only hope for the good for America to deliver, or do something with us, because we're going the wrong way. We're aligning ourselves with that old world system that Trump is working against. So Canada is very foolish if it chooses
let go of the crown and become a republic. Canada, that's your salvation. And join the United
your way
States
forward. Absolutely right, Blake. Blake, I want to thank you again, as always, for being here and helping me out, helping all of us out, and sharing from your experience. Folks, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. And thank you so much for being with us and fighting the good fight alongside Blake and myself. We will be back on Friday with another episode, and we'll see what the hell has happened in our world Friday. Good Lord, help us all. Take care, everybody.